In this video, I'm going face-to-face with 4 of the most popular AI web design tools. Everyone's saying that AI is coming for web designers, and in just a few years, we'll all be out of a job. So I'm putting that to a test. We're all getting the same design brief and building a single homepage for the same business. And then at the very end, we're gonna be given a score. And no matter what, whether I like the results or not, we're going to crown a winner. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, before we start, we need to set some ground rules because after all, we want this to be a fair fight. First, we don't want outcomes to be rigged. So none of the tools that I'm using today are sponsoring this video, and I'm not the one doing the judging. I'm leaving that up to my friend Derrick. He's one of the best brand designers that I know, and he actually won't have a clue about who or what built the site that he's looking at. Second, we want clear results, and I can't get that if we don't know how a website wins or if one tool or method has an unfair advantage. So here are the rules. Derrick is judging each site based on 4 categories: design, user experience, originality, and overall look and feel. And maybe more importantly, AI doesn't get any help from me. I'll use whatever the AI gives me without prompting until it finally looks right. And to keep it fair, I don't get any help from AI for my design either. So it's pure human versus pure AI. Finally, we want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. It wouldn't be fair if we all got different design briefs. That would be like comparing how fast a person swims the 100-meter freestyle versus another person who runs a 100-yard dash. So every tool and person is getting the same design brief. Here's what that looks like. We're building a homepage for an AI SaaS company called Neuronest. They want it to highlight their project management system, and they want it to feel modern, intelligent, and approachable. Oh, and by the way, I'm giving the design that I build away for free for you to use on any project that you have coming up in the future. The link's in the description. All right, everyone knows the rules. Let's head to our corners and let's get ready to rumble. Sorry, I had to do it. You knew I had to do it. We're starting with a heavy hitter, Figma Make. Figma is like the industry standard for web design tools. So when they announced that they're adding an AI web and app builder, everyone just kind of freaked out. But how much of that is just hype and how much of it is reality? Let's find out. To get started, I'm just gonna copy and paste the entire design brief into the Figma Make prompt. And you'll notice that a lot of these AI tools feel like your standard AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude. And looking at the AI's feedback as it's building, it kind of sounds like it knows what it's doing. Like, check this out. I'm building a cross between Apple, Notion, and ChatGPT. But how much of that can it deliver on its promise? Let's see the results. All right, as I'm looking at this, I can tell it followed the design brief really closely in terms of the sections, but it didn't really add a ton of personality to it. In fact, it's pretty sterile. But my opinion doesn't matter all that much because I'm not the one doing the judging. Let's go to Derrick and see what he had to say.
All right, I'm looking at this and it looks pretty standard. It looks pretty clean. Nice bold headlines, subhead. The CTA is very clear. If I'm gonna judge this as far as design, this is maybe a 4. UX wise, it's like a 6. When it comes to originality, yeah, this is like a 3.5. Overall, I would say this is maybe a 5.
All right, so Figma Make is walking away with a total score of 18.5. The humans are off to a promising start, but this next AI has been hyped up like crazy. But can it actually deliver something better, or is it just more of the same? Round 2 is an AI tool called Lovable. Lovable works a lot like how Figma works, and I've actually built a few apps that I've been pretty happy with. But let's see how it does with a website. So let's go ahead, add our design brief into the prompt box. With Lovable, it gives you a little bit more detailed feedback than Figma and a lot of the other tools that I've tried. But let's actually look at the results and see if it can deliver. And this web page looks really similar to the Figma webpage, almost eerily similar. And I'm seeing a lot of these 3-column layouts like again and again. And I always like seeing layouts alternate every other section to keep users engaged a bit more. But let's go to Derrick and see how he scored this.
Looks pretty similar to the first one, just using different colors, Kind of looks more like a template. I would say design-wise, this is like a 4. UX-wise, it's very clean. It's very nice. So I'd probably give that a 6. Originality, this one is definitely a 2. Overall, I'd probably give this a 4.5.
Our score from Derrick was unsurprisingly just 2 points off from the Figma design because it basically looked like the exact same web page. Lovable is walking away with a total score of 16.5. So it still looks like the humans have the upper hand for now, but can I be honest with you for a second? The next 2 tools that we're using have gotten a lot of notoriety lately, and they honestly make me kind of nervous. I've seen them produce AI designs that would stack up against some of my designs just a few years ago, and that messes with me a little bit because as a web designer, you start asking, what if one day I'm the outdated version? But here's the thing, we can't hide from it. Every wave of technology brings 2 kinds of people, those who fear it and those who figure out how to use it. And I plan to be the second, and I hope you do too. But I have to know where I stand, so here we go. Round 3, Hostinger. Hostinger actually started as a pure web hosting company, but it's been pushing its new AI website builder really hard lately. And some of the designs I've seen have kind of concerned me. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping it bombs just a little. So let's add the prompt and see what it does. The results are actually better than what we've seen so far. It has a little bit more personality and there's some really cool micro interactions as you're scrolling down. But again, I'm seeing a lot of these 3-column layouts over and over. And there's even some like stacking order issues with some of these numbers. But let's go to Derrick and see what he had to say.
This looks nice. The main headline on the hero is a little bit larger, which is nice. It feels like it has a little more impact. One thing though is I'm trying to gauge if this is actually communicating to the audience innovation and approachability. Definitely looks innovative, but I'm not really sure what this is for exactly. Design wise, this is probably a 7.5. I really like the design. UX as well is very solid. I give that a 6. Originality, far more original than some of the other ones that I was just reviewing. I'm gonna give this more like a 6 on originality. I'm gonna give this a 6 overall.
So Hostinger's final score is a 25.5 out of a possible 40. That's the highest score we've seen so far. But is it enough to beat out our next tool, which actually only does websites? So out of any, this one has the chance to rate the highest. Round 4 is Webflow. Their process is a little bit different than what we've seen so far. There's a few steps that you have to follow, and then it kind of gives you a few options that you can adjust or move things around, but we're just gonna stick with whatever the AI recommends. The results are actually very decent. This is the first AI-built web page that we've seen that kind of does a little bit more creative things with its layouts. So you'll notice it's not just all 3 columns, one after the other. It's got some really cool animations, a lot more images. There's a bunch of sections that I didn't necessarily ask for, but I would mark it negatively for that. But again, my opinion doesn't matter. Let's go to Derrick for our final AI score.
There's some really cool aspects to this. I still feel kind of like a template. I do like the colors. It's got some nice animated scroll effects in here. I'm noticing some typographic differences just in the headlines and the subheads. Design-wise, I'm gonna give this a 6. It still looks minimal, but it looks like there's a lot of effort put into the animation. So as far as UX, I would give that a 7. I rate that a little bit higher because it looks like there's definitely more work put into the design. Originality, it still looks kind of basic. So that's a 5. It looks a little bit more complete, but overall I'm gonna give this a 6.
So the final score for our Webflow AI site is a 24 out of a possible 40, which is surprisingly less than Hostinger. That means that the score to beat is a 25.5. Can I do it? Let's dive in and get this done. I like starting every project by gathering as much inspiration as I can on a Figma mood board. And that might be from websites that I find interesting or even graphic elements. What I'm looking for is anything that captures the feeling of what the design brief is asking. From there, I start testing out different typography, so different font combinations and different color palettes. And by testing, I mean, I just throw a whole bunch of options onto the mood board and and I start messing around with them to see if they fit and work together. What I found is that every font combination and every color palette has a specific personality that's really kind of hard to describe. And what I'm trying to match is what the design brief calls for, which is innovation, modern, and personal. Then finally, I start designing it out in Showit, which is my preferred web builder. The entire time, I'm trying out options. I'm moving things around, I'm shifting colors, I'm changing layouts, and I'm just trying to see what really fits perfectly. And the result, well, take a look. Now, obviously, I like the web page, but I'm not the one doing the scoring. We've got to send this over to Derrick, and we've got to get a score higher than 26. All right, this is killing me. Let's just go to Derrick.
Ooh, this is nice. Yeah, even from the get-go, it looks like a site that's far more immersive than the other ones I've seen. Okay, what I like about this is there's some solid storytelling where the other sites just kind of seem standard. They sort of group these elements together in a couple of bullet points, whereas this one is guiding me through a story, both in the animation of the icons, but also in the horizontal scroll. All right, yeah, so this is my favorite for sure. So if I'm gonna rate this one design-wise, this is an 8 for sure. And moving into UX, I would give that a 9. Originality, this is a 7 maybe. So overall score, this one is a 7.5.
All right, so let's recap. We've got Figma with a score of 18.5. Lovable with a 16.5, Hostinger with our highest score at 26, and then Webflow with a 24. And my design, drum roll please, a 31.5. We did it. The human design has won with 6 points higher than any of the tools that we tried. So congratulations, for the moment, humans have the advantage. But here's where it gets interesting. First, how long is that going to be the case? And then second, does every client actually need a site that ranks really high in our little score? You know, the truth is a plumber who just needs to get something online probably doesn't need an award-winning site, and that's okay. We can either use those AI tools to help those plumbers who would probably never use ChatGPT, or we can learn how to offer things that AI can't and probably never will. Now more than ever, we've got to approach our clients more like consultants than pixel pushers. But honestly, that's been the case since I started being a web designer over 10 years ago. Nothing's changed. AI is just emphasizing what has always been true. I love what Derrick said about my site versus the other AI sites. The human design tells a story, while AI designs just kind of group elements into bullet points. AI can arrange components, but it can't craft an emotional narrative that really guides the user through an entire experience. And honestly, I don't think that's something AI is ever going to be able to do. So keep bringing something unique to every project you work on. Develop, grow your own style and your skill set with your own unique perspective. But the question is, how do you do that, especially when you're first getting started? Thankfully, I've got a video that cuts through all the stuff that people tell you to focus on that actually doesn't matter and teaches you how to grow in what really matters. So check out this video on the 5 most important things to learn as a web designer. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget, if you don't quit, you win.